Well, welcome back to Oscarbate.
Welcome
We
back, friends.
it's another day, sun shining, birds are chirping. It's a beautiful time to be a film fan too, because it's that time of the year when the Oscars are over, and you can remember that there are other movies out there that you don't have to put into your discourse all day. So we get a brief month where we can just think about what is to come. Before we maybe talk about that, let's talk about our guest joining us today. If you're listening to our podcast, you probably know this podcast. We are joined by Matt Christman from the Chapo Trap House. Thanks for coming by, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
As I said, it's a big year coming up. We got lots of stuff coming. Is there anything you're excited for in this coming 2023?
I mean, I'm a sucker for practical nuclear effects, so definitely Oppenheimer.
I don't know. Do you think there's anything else that could possibly use practical effects in this coming year? Maybe
Seems unlikely.
Maybe David Cronenberg got another
He's
one.
usually good for it, yeah.
I saw today that every French person's favorite filmmaker, Xavier Dolan, is doing one of the Silent Hill movies.
Wait, really?
I don't know. There'll be some practical effects in that.
Genuine pyramid heads.
I don't see. That'd be exciting. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. There's one movie that's coming out that is not going to use practical effects and is in fact using some serious new AI technology, and that's the movie Here, coming out by one Robert Zemeckis, utilizing some crazy new AI thing called Metaphysics Live. Are you aware of this technology, Matt?
No, sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
It's just some de-aging shit, it seems. I guess they used it on one of the Masked Singer, not the Masked, someone's Got Talent. They've got they brought Elvis on stage with this shit, so it's pretty exciting.
Oh, it's the end times.
Yeah. So now we're gonna see Tom Hanks and Robin Wright de-aged back to the Forrest Gump era. Could be cool.
We'll see.
Can't wait to see.
Let's not go nuts. Like he has with technology. He kind of shows how, on a long enough timeline, any approach to art will start to eat itself. Because when he's doing Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he is taking the best of cutting edge digital effects and special effects and using them to their greatest advantage. But over time, that becomes an obsession with covering Tom Hanks in ping pong balls.
Yeah, I will say though that as the technology's improved, we had his wife on recently, Leslie Zemeckis. She said that they've actually decreased the amount of ping pong balls.
Yeah, she was happy to report that now it's only like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So what's the point then? What's
I don't
the fun
know.
if you're not going to just slather an Oscar winner in ping pong balls?
I guess the other option is the man from the man called Otto from Otto.
A Man Called Otto.
Oh,
And named Otto?
is he named Otto? I don't know.
I think he's named Otto.
I think so.
The movie should have just been Otto with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
How do you feel about some of his CGI movies, mainly Polar Express and Beowulf? We're not gonna ask you your opinion.
Brutally alienating experiences. That's all it's gross. You're camping out in the uncanny valley. You brought sandwiches.
All right, so you're not a fan of those. What about Welcome to Marwen, where he sort of blends that?
Oh man, that is a fever dream. That movie is something else.
Okay.
It's very, once again, just disturbing, creeping me out with the live dolls. So I know a few people had to have had the best day of their life watching Marwen, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, that would be for sure. I find Marwen to be a film that the more I watch it, the more my appreciation grows for it. And
how many times you've seen Welcome to Marwen?
I would say 4 or 5 times probably.
Oh, that's too many times.
It might be enough time. It might be enough time to really kind of refigure some things in your skull. Because the first time I saw it, I did feel pretty alienated by it. At the end of the day, I just kind of was like, well, that was interesting. But I think on that rewatch, one of those dolls really like grabbed hold of me. And
Monáe got you on the rewatch.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love Janelle Monáe's Barbie doll character. But watching that movie, it resembles less his CGI movies, and it truly feels like his version of Lost Highway. Like, it's extremely disturbing. It misdirects you in this way that it makes you think it's going to be sort of about this guy dealing with PTSD and how he's coping with that, and kind of becomes an exploratory thing into like the mind of this kind of unwitting misogynist, this, as we've called them, like a puppy dog misogynist. The way that his character treats and reacts to women is, I don't know. I mean, maybe I just love seeing white dudes taken to task.
That guy, Steve Carell's character, he was called out and called in.
Yes, he was. He achieved both at once, which is probably that whiplash is what gave that movie no box office. I mean, in Chicago, there is no joke, there is still a billboard of it up in the city of Chicago.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Where?
it's near this laundromat I used to work. It's just decrepit, and it's
You
just,
have to go take a fucking picture in front of that.
oh, I have so many. Well, we can move on from Marwin. We don't have to beat those dolls to death.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit probably had the bigger effect that I remember, largely due to the sexual awakening brought about by Jessica Rabbit's character.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an amazing feat of special effects to make a really, really sexy cartoon lady that everybody wants to fuck. And kudos to him on that one.
Still to this day.
Yeah. And to imprint so deeply onto the psyches of a generation.
Yeah, it's almost interesting why Disney doesn't seem to want to make a sequel to that movie. I've heard their biggest issue is Jessica Rabbit. I think even Zemeckis has said that in like interviews. Like,
it's too hot. It's too sexy. You're gonna get people eating the theater seats. They're gonna be hopping up and down like baboons.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you put Jessica Rabbit now, 2024, bopping around with that behind, and yeah, really, it could be Rites of Spring in the theater. I mean,
yeah, you can't. They would get so sued for people claiming injuries from hitting themselves in the head with mallets, their eyeballs extending out onto their stalks and wrapping up against one another and exploding.
Yeah, the movie turning people into literal Tex Avery Wolf characters. Yeah. I mean, it's funny how far we've come from the I would say the golden days of Hollywood filmmaking, where you could make Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and not only make Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like add in the sort of political commentary that you did at the time, and not have anyone really seem to notice it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing that always strikes me so much about Who Framed Roger Rabbit is mostly the scenes involving the Toons, considering they're now like being relegated to being like second class citizens that can only work service jobs. You know how they weave in the whole they don't really explicitly say it, but they sort of make reference. It's post-war, sort of the government subsidies that came in to build highways, and Doom seems like the ultimate cartoonish extension of the evils of capitalism at that time.
Yeah, no, it's amazingly incisive. I mean, they basically did make Chinatown with cartoon characters. It's amazing to look back on it. Yeah, it's pretty wild that movies like that ever got made.
But we have it, thank God, and it's now locked up on Disney Plus forever. So
I
know. Yeah, apparently there is a Roger Rabbit ride or something at Disneyland, and in it, Jessica Rabbit is wearing a trench coat because they had to They had to prevent riots.
Oh my God. Is that real?
They had to desexify her.
Wearing a trench coat.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah. Gotta turn the temperature down there.
I'm amazed they're still even putting up Roger Rabbit rides. Do kids
Hide
even know
curves.
what Roger Rabbit is?
I guess. I don't know. I guess it's for the parents probably.
We were saddened to hear that the Back to the Future ride has been turned into I think a Minions racing ride.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Did
That's
you
all
ever-
kids know today is damn Minions.
That's all they talk about. Spanish Minions. Did you ever take the Back to the Future ride at Universal?
I went to Universal Studios one time. I don't remember Back to the Future ride. I do remember that the Jaws ride was broken,
Oh no.
No.
and that was a big bummer.
Well, it's gone now too.
They got rid of the Jaws ride?
Jaws ride's gone.
Really?
What
Yeah.
the shit is the point of anything then?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the thing about Universal. Anybody seen Mallrats?
Yeah. That's the whole point.
That's the whole point of Universal Studios. It's the fucking Jaws ride. What the hell do they have? The Minions instead? Is that it?
Minions and I think Fast and the Furious now have taken.
I need to lie down.
Yeah. I hate that we brought that to you on this. This was supposed to be a nice one, but
It stinks.
yeah, to quote Jay Sherman, it does stink. It's pretty unfortunate. I mean, it's not going to be long before the Psycho house probably gets torn down.
Oh God,
Surely
the
not.
ambiance. No,
Surely not.
I mean,
I did go to the King Kong ride, which is pretty scary, and then I remember meeting Beetlejuice.
mhm.
That's about it.
The King Kong ride is still there. What is interesting that they have changed about the King Kong ride is that now they used to be for the King Kong ride, there used to be like graffiti and like posters and stuff to make it look like a seedy New York alleyway. But they've taken all that off. In fact, they've replaced it with newer posters. They used to, I remember, have a poster for John Carpenter's Village of the Damned. And apparently they've now replaced it with probably Jurassic World or something like that.
Dear God.
They're truly just erasing everything. They got rid of the Terminator ride as well.
Yeah.
What rides do they have besides the fucking Minions then?
It's a real shame. Universal has really gone by the wayside. I've heard they even changed the Jurassic Park ride, so there's really nothing left. But
Get out of here.
yeah. Well, before this becomes just a sad lament for the dying studio-sponsored amusement parks. But let's talk just recent for Mr. Zemeckis. How do you feel about his film Allied?
That's the one with Brad Pitt,
Yeah, Marion Cotillard.
Angelina Jolie.
Oh, I wish.
Never saw it.
Marion, if it were Angelina.
Oh, Marianne Cotillard. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, never saw it.
Yes. Oh, well.
Heard it was boring.
Oh, no.
It's good.
Oh, I would
Okay.
say that's probably one of his greatest films.
I've heard others like it. I saw somebody had it on their Sight and Sound like best of list. I was like, what?
It was Kiyoshi Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
He
Can't argue with that.
This Zemeckis head in all the land, it seems.
Yeah, he claims it's one of the best films of the past like 30 years or something like that.
Wow, I need to check this out.
I will say it's the best example of what he could do with technology in that.
So what is the effects that he's doing there?
He basically reconstructs digitally the entirety of Casablanca. Like
But you don't notice. It's one of my favorite kinds of Zemeckis things where his insane effects work is largely invisible.
Yeah. We didn't even know that until we spoke with the critic Dave Kerr. And then he pointed out that all of when they construct Casablanca at the beginning of the movie is entirely fake.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, what got the movie made is he was able to rein in the budget that way. But it's all completely invisible.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts.
Why does he do that though? Why would he do that?
To get caught.
Because he couldn't get budgets. Because no one would let
Right,
him.
but I mean, why would he make Casablanca? It's not a remake of Casablanca, is it? I didn't think that was the case.
It's like a arguably parallel story within the universe of Casablanca.
Oh, it's in the I'm sorry, it's in the Casablanca cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
The CCU. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's firmly implanted in there. I mean, he definitely seems to have an obsession with Casablanca. Do you remember um any of his episodes he did for Tales from the Crypt?
Oh yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I watched every episode of Tales from the Crypt. Which ones did he do?
well, his most famous one is the one of the woman being attacked by Santa.
Oh right, yes, classic.
Classic.
That
Um,
was from the original Tales from the Crypt film.
yeah,
I remember correctly, yeah.
yeah, and then he Zemeckis it pretty hard, and yeah, it's pretty cool. He also did one for the spin-off that I think only aired once, Two-Fisted Tales. Do you
Yeah, it's
remember
supposed to be
that?
like westerns and war stories from the EC comics that didn't fit in Tales from the Crypt, and it bombed really bad. So there are only 3 episodes that they made into one movie and showed once.
But it's cool.
Man,
It's
I
like,
don't remember that. Shit.
oh man, we gotta
I
look.
I want to see that.
Yeah, well, I'll email it to you. Yeah, we'll send it your way.
It's impossible to find, but yeah, it's like Kirk Douglas, and it's like yeah, it's this kind of trench set war story. Even
Oh,
cool.
wait a minute. The one with Kurt Russell and his fail son.
Yeah,
That was a Tales from the Crypt episode. Even though, yeah, it is also way off
yeah,
brand for
yeah.
Tales from the Crypt. They did release it as a Tales from the Crypt episode because I remember seeing it. He thinks his dad's going to save him from getting executed, but
Yep.
then he actually makes sure that he gets killed.
Yeah.
Great episode.
But he makes him first admit, like, show that he's not scared,
Yeah.
so that he can have peace that his son's not yellow.
Yeah.
Even though he's only not scared because he doesn't think he's going to die.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
While Dan Aykroyd is standing there next to him.
Oh, yes, Aykroyd's in there.
Yeah.
Having the Kirk Douglas cast in there, brilliant.
Oh, it's yeah.
Paths of Glory and whatnot.
Mhm.
Great.
Unfortunately, what you don't get in the Tales from the Crypt is for Two-Fisted Tales, they tried to like basically one up the Crypt Keeper.
Oh,
And
it's
they're like,
rude.
yeah, we got a paraplegic who just curses at you and insults you the entire time. And like brandishes
Oh,
a gun at the screen.
And says like some like truly filthy shit. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder that failed, because he's truly just like not with a wink and like the macabre fun of Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Like he's just like truly berating everyone.
He's just putting you down at
Yeah.
the beginning of the episode. So I guess it didn't really connect, but
Oh,
where I was going with this is that the final episode he did was the one, I don't know if you remember this, it was pretty later on. It was John Lithgow, Isabella Rossellini, and like this guy basically gets face reconstructive surgery to look like Humphrey Bogart.
Oh yeah, I remember that was a big deal because that was like considered a groundbreaking special effect.
Yeah, which today it's very funny.
Yeah, it's I'm sure it really holds up.
yeah.
Well, speaking of Lost Highway, it looks literally like when the man from nowhere's like face appears on Patricia Arquette. That is kind of the least interesting. Well, maybe it's the most interesting thing because he's kind of playing around with that Forrest Gump technology before that. But speaking of Casablanca, he has Isabella Rossellini basically just dress up as her mom from Casablanca in it, which is just so strange. And I guess points to some deep obsession he has with Michael Curtiz's Casablanca. But for Allied, he basically, it doesn't deal with any of those characters. It just, he plops you into that world that kind of like make you feel like you're, I don't know, like at a Warner Brothers backlot World War II movie. Let me put it this way. Are you a fan of What Lies Beneath?
Uh, maybe I saw that one time.
Yeah, basically, if you watch it again, Harrison Ford's creating a basically a serum that like leaves you immobile, but you're still able to like breathe and like
You're still fully conscious. You just can't fucking move. It's horrific. And then like him and his buddy are whining about how you can't like, fuck your secretary anymore without getting in trouble. And it's so weird.
I figured you would probably also distrust geneticists as much as you should.
That was also used that element, that concept was used in a different Tales from the Crypt episode with Tony Goldwyn when they inject him with this stuff. It's like supposed to be a prank, and he thinks he's been killed, but he's just been given this paralyzing agent, but he's still conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out, no, he is dead. And then the horrifying last moment as he's getting his autopsy is, they said that the feeling was the first thing to go, but it's the last.
Yes.
Interesting.
Tales from the Crypt end.
I wonder if, since Zemeckis was the producer of that show, I wonder if that's right.
I would not be surprised.
Well, are there any Zemeckis movies that you just love that you consider like to be some of the greatest cinema?
I mean, I'm a normal loser. I like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It really does feel like a perfect film, and the Back to the Future trilogy is pretty great. I mean, the second one is a little loud and a little all over the place, but it's still got its moments. And the third one is just I still remember reading the Leonard Maltin movie guide describing Back to the Future 3, and it said there's some real movie magic here, and there absolutely is rousing stuff there.
Yeah, you can see he finally got to have a little fun with making movies again, where I think part 2 is kind of like him filling a quota, and getting a big bag, but
he wanted to go out west.
Yeah.
He just wanted to do his like fucking Buster Keaton train scene, and he kills it so hard.
Awesome.
Train
sequence. Oh man. You got those combustible bundle things exploding in the boiler and everything.
Yeah. And actually had Mary Steenburgen like on a horse dismount to the train. That's the kind of filmmaking we'll never get again.
No. We just need more actual stunts.
What would you like to see most return to movies?
Well, I mean, I'm on the record. Squibs. That's the one thing I would take if I could get it. Would be Squibs and Real Blanks. Of course, thanks to Alec Baldwin, they're probably never coming back again. But that is what I wish, because you can't replicate the impact of an actual little thing going off in someone's chest and then a blast of fake blood. You can't do it. It cannot be replicated. I've not seen it replicated anywhere with any kind of satisfying effect.
Did Dragged Across Concrete have squibs in it?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably.
When Jennifer Carpenter's head explodes, that's definitely a practical effect.
Yeah,
that's the one I remember.
Yeah.
My memory serves me correctly. There's some pretty terrific squib use in that.
Yeah.
I think so. There are a couple people trying to do it at least.
Yeah.
Weren't you telling me? Because remember when we joked about we wanted to put on that school shooter series at the Music Box?
Yeah.
What was the one you were telling me that you said had like squibs in it?
It's got
a right-wing fucking movie.
They're very.
Oh yeah, Run, Fight, Hide, or whatever.
Yeah,
the Ben Shapiro movie, which was surprisingly good.
Oh,
I watched it for the show.
No, but the one I was talking about was the real trashy, no budget affair, Duck, the Carbine massacre that the William Hellfire and his friends made and went to jail for because they broke into a high school to shoot it at night. And then everyone thought it was real because they had their guns and shit. And it was, made in a just astonishingly delicious poor taste very nearly after Columbine. So, But that one's got some squibs, that's for sure. Some homemade squibs too. So my favorite kind.
Let's take a little, before we jump into the last thing we want to talk about, we like to talk about what's going on with movies now, especially things during the award season. What did you think about this last year and maybe these subsequent years of the movies that get fed to us through PR campaigns that tell us that no, in fact, Nomadland literally is the best movie ever made, or Everything Everywhere and Everyone Together at Once?
That one, the Nomadland thing, I mean, that was absolutely baffling. I guess it's just that urge, the the Academy urge to uh, feel like they are confronting issues without being disturbed by them. Yes, it's a country full of lonely people at the precipice of economic obliteration, but it also is opportunity for people to really learn about themselves.
Yeah,
the everywhere and all at once, all over the place movie, that is just the final triumph of Marvel over everything. It is the final domination of the comic book movie model as the only type of movie that gets made. It might not be branded MCU, it might not be part of any of the specific universes, but it is fundamentally a superhero film. And now, at this point, they know how to hit the buttons in people's mind to make them feel like they're watching something that has emotional substance, while fundamentally obeying the structural rigors of the superhero genre.
It's really interesting how that has kind of wedged itself into the whole like, I guess what you could call the indie film market, which has not existed for decades. I mean, studios have taken that over completely, but it's it's very funny. I mean, we hated that movie, and mostly like for, I think, what you're talking about, like kind of what it represents going forward. And that this
Truly
is
a death knell. It was truly a death knell, and that's why I sweat so much watching it, because I was sad.
yeah, like this is cutting edge cinema that's really gonna like break narrative structure. We got the fingers, we got the rocks, and I mean, it's sad, but now what's even sadder is watching these people who like were like, thank God, art triumphed at the Oscars. The Daniels have done it. And now they're like, and within a week or so have completely turned on them because they directed an episode of like some new Star Wars show. And now
They
everyone,
were in it for the money? Impossible.
yeah, they were like, they've sold out.
Wait a minute, what? Do they actually think that? How that movie is the classic audition piece? Hey, look, we can do this stuff. And we can even do it in a way where we don't even have to use the IP, and we can still get the same audience response. Yep. Imagine what we could do with the IP.
Yeah.
100%. It's shameless. I mean, it's completely shameless, and literally what it is auditioning to do. And
I was wearing that cool like emblazoned jacket that said punk on it at the Oscars to let you know.
Yeah, his imposter syndrome's really coming out there. I think like it's just like the whiplash that we seem to be in this day and age, and certainly you know about this, you guys talk about this on your podcast, but how quickly one can go from thinking that real art has been created. Not only real art's been created, it keeps getting created with Nomadland, with whatever, with the Coda movie. To the point now where it is just, that's what we accept as truly art house cinema, and we should uphold it. And not only that, we should admonish one of the wealthiest people in the world and treat them as like they were a great underdog, Michelle Yeoh, for being in the movie. And we love Michelle Yeoh. I mean, but did you find it a little shameless in how Michelle Yeoh might have been utilized for that movie?
I mean, everybody that they bring back Short Round, which, I mean, it's supposed to be, oh, look, he got this job after all this time. It's not like he'd given up for years of being an actor. These guys were literally like, oh, wouldn't it be epic if Short Round was in the movie? And then they put him in the movie.
Yep.
And and then you're like, oh, look. I mean, that's the kind of pandering that we're talking about, and pandering to a specific point of view. I mean, I think more than anything, what the Marvel aesthetic approach represents to me is just a surrender to the narcissistic perspective of the lumpen millennial nerd audience, generally male, who go to these things and who you can kind of get, who can be manipulated into getting behind films because they have this pretension to be serious consumers of art because they know they're supposed to, but at base they just want the candy that they've been consuming their entire lives, and they want everything they see to reflect their concerns and their aesthetics and everything else. So, oh, look, they're short round, and then let's give this 60-year-old Chinese immigrant millennial American malaise and anxieties. And also let's make a movie where the premise is your identity, your personhood is irreducible through time and space, and no matter what things change, you are still you. That's what they're selling, and the reason it's a guaranteed moneymaker is because they know what the response will be. All you got to do is give a bare gesture towards some sort of rigor or genre indulgence, and they will go crazy for it.
And they did.
Yep.
Swept
it worked like a charm. The algorithm, once again, it stays winning.
Do you find that to be, I mean, I'm sure you do, I'm asking the obvious, but more to our listeners, you find this very disturbing?
Yeah, it's grim stuff. There's no question about it.
I mean, considering that they actually had a year where there was a couple things nominated where I mean, it's the Oscars, who really gives a shit, but
it's like you said, though, it's that's the one that makes people the most able to pat themselves on the back and feel good at the water cooler while still getting exactly what they have always gotten, what they want, but they can feel smart. Top Gun doesn't do that. Fabelmans doesn't do that. None of the others really do that, at least as well. and as sinister as everything does.
It's more this, like, the movie has like kind of wiped people's memories, and it's now the first movie about like Chinese immigrant families.
Yeah, first one for sure.
Truly the first.
Well, it's the first one that I would ever watch, because instead of it being about a milieu that I would have a cultural distance from and I might have to work a little bit to relate to, they're just going to shape it directly towards my experience.
Yep.
And create a fantasy world where, there's actually no distance here. There's no work that I have to do, but yet because it is a Chinese immigrant family, I get to feel worldly for having watched it.
Yep.
An extremely well sold movie by A24.
Oh yeah, they're the best at this.
Yeah.
They're the best at, like,
Weinstein shit. Like
they're on their Weinstein shit, where they understand there's going to be this zone in the middle there of films with limited budgets that are not going to be able to afford IP to buttress them, but that can consistently get an audience by conveying a sense of formal rigor or artistic ambition that is undercut in every other respect.
Yeah. So
that it's not too intimidating, and it doesn't really challenge, but it gives the pseudo effect of that. And then and that's a marvel. You've marvelified the mid budget independent film.
Totally. I mean, it's no longer the star system model. You can't get a weird movie made based off of who signs on to be in it. It truly is like, if it's not IP, it must circle the drain like extremely close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they Weinstein it, and they literally have his assistant from Miramax running that shit over at A24. Which
they know what they're fucking doing.
Yeah, and which he learned that method of like campaigning for movies in the Oscars literally from Bill Clinton. So
it all, as always, with everything we do since we've started the show, it all comes back to the fucking Clintons every time.
Matt, what are your opinions on the Clintons?
Just a couple of committed public servants.
I was happy to see that Hillary's doing some. She's like teaching like international public relations now at like some school.
Sick.
Yeah.
When it gets frustrating and you get I bombed them. Just drop bombs. It's incredible how that fixes things.
Pretty good method. Speaking of dropping bombs, what are your thoughts about Forrest Gump? And let me see if I can attack those.
I haven't watched it in a long time. I remember I saw it as a when it came out, and I was like, "Oh, that's all right." But I hated it by the time of the Oscars because it beat Pulp Fiction, which I blew my mind and I thought was the greatest movie of all time. And that bitterness certainly has colored my feelings towards it. I mean, I have the bog standard ideological objections to it, although those don't really count for much when you're really talking about a movie. I just treacly, I guess would be the word.
This is great because we are coming from the exact same place.
When I rewatched it and worked hard to watch it with a clean slate, I was floored how mean of a movie it is about idiot white boomers, I will say. Yeah.
That's exactly.
And I think it also is, it's related when Spielberg took Tarantino and Zemeckis duck hunting during award season when the nominations came out, and Spielberg called it how things would go out, but they all went duck hunting together for whatever reason.
And John Milius too.
And John Milius, yeah. Well, of course, anytime anyone's shooting things, Milius is there. But shortly after that, Quentin has a great quote where he just says, if you're familiar with Bob's work, there's a lot more acid running through it than you might realize. And I think that is very apt for Forrest Gump. If you can put aside how so many of our parents felt about it, I think it's a very to me now, a very clearly harsh, mean movie about the state of things that Zemeckis saw in this country and how upset he was about it. And I think it was co-opted by the people he was making fun of, who drank it fully and thought he was making a movie about how great they are.
If you're still interested in this, I'll give you.
Yeah, go for it. I need to hear it. Elaborate.
Right. Okay. So kind of what struck me immediately right off the bat, rewatching it after that, the feather drops. The first thing he does in the movie, and we know that he's like a multi-millionaire. And if you've seen the movie, he's a multi-millionaire. I'll get to why in a second, but he starts the movie off by literally just bugging a black woman at a bus stop about her shoes, and then decides to let me chew your ear off about how I got to here and how I'm sitting with you next to at this bus stop. And this woman couldn't give a shit. She's going to clearly like a job at a hospital, something like that, normal service job. So over the course of the movie, we're introduced to his relationship with Jenny, and he goes to war, all that shit. The scene that normally gets talked about the most is probably the Black Panther scene. And like people think that he's like, they're making fun of the Black Panthers in that scene.
I never thought that. They're making fun of the white guy.
Yeah, because they're literally, I mean, we were on some of our old episodes, we pull up a bunch of like old articles from the time, and it's so much that, oh, they're making fun of the Black Panthers. Well, they're the only people in that room who see that he's a fucking idiot. What immediately follows that scene, I think, is its greatest kind of, this is where I would draw the comparison between Zemeckis, this film especially, and probably some of the greatest work by John Ford. Now, John Ford is so good at, I think, showing things happening on screen and have characters say almost the complete opposite, or vice versa. Eastwood's picked up this mantle. I think he does it to great effect. But what we have here are these two characters, Jenny and Forrest, sort of talking about how they have been reunited. And visually, what he has next to them, they're walking against a candlelight procession of people who've died in Vietnam. No attention's called to it, except we're seeing these candlelight people, and they're filed going one way against the Capitol. Jenny and Forrest are walking the complete opposite way of that procession and are talking without a care to what is literally happening right next to them the entire time. Well, that seems intentional because that looked like an extremely hard shot to pull off. So I would assume Zemeckis, who has shown that there is more under the hood than he lets on, is probably getting at something. And I think with Marwan, he does this. It's like he utilizes that Alan Silvestri music in a way that disarms you So we move along. I'll make my case very quick here. We move along. The final is the scene with how he becomes a multimillionaire. And the scene where he becomes a multimillionaire, I'm sure we all remember. He's got the Bubba Gump shrimp boat. He's going out, he's catching the shrimp with Lieutenant Dan. And there's a great line where he says, yeah, I prayed for like the heavens to come and like give us like money and make success for us. Well, I guess the heavens don't really come, but what they do, it wipes out basically the entire black shrimping industry. So I'm going to show that you see it only briefly on a newspaper that this is now decimated this entire population's like source of revenue. And then he comes in and he's got bubblegum shrimp now. He's got everybody's favorite place to go with their parents on vacation and bug the waiters and have them do the lines from Forrest Gump. Now, obviously that's came later, but what they're showing is that this guy is now like taken on this entire population's industry and has utilized it for his own. And I think going from there in the rest of the movie, it isn't too hard to see that this is the do-gooder boomer coming through, making great progress, societal change, while really just being a self-absorbed person who benefits off the backs of others.
I mean, the fact that he's supposed to be a generational icon who is also, mentally handicapped. I think that's a pretty on the nose bit of critique. But at a certain point, you just got to look at how people responded to it. And if nothing else, marvel at the America's ability to see whatever they want.
Well, yeah, look where we are
now. But that's what happens when you keep it, subtle like that. Not really. They're going to take anything you give them, which means he is like most of these guys. He's playing a double game. He gets to feel satisfied, like, oh, I'm making some critique, whereas it also makes $1 zillion and gets a bunch of Oscars. Best of both worlds.
Yeah,
ice cream for dinner.
It enables him to now make Flight. It enables him to keep pushing it. And I guess that's the sad dance of Hollywood. But, I mean, this dance has been, danced forever. I mean, The Searchers, The Searchers is a movie that is constantly talked about as having racist overtones, where I think you rewatch it, it seems to be very much questioning that sort of racism. So we're recently as American Sniper. I mean, there's a great movie that I think got completely misconstrued by the general public.
Now, that movie says that the Iraq War is a bad idea because Iraqis aren't worth the sacrifice of American heroes.
I don't know if I agree with that. I would say that the movie features that because the Iraq War is very much part of the story. I would say it is almost kind of you can look at it as kind of a reimagining of Unforgiven. Not as like, you don't have the stand-ins of like Eastwood the cowboy, but you have the American soldier, which is so different from the book it was ripped from. But
that's the thing, is that Chris Kyle was a real guy, and he was an actual American that we have. He was not a iconic cowboy. He was not he was raised to believe in that kind of thing, but he was just another cynical, sadistic narcissist. So turning him into the cowboy in the movie, like giving him that evocation, it's too obscuring of reality. That there's no room for any critique there that isn't just at the end of the day a disdain for these mud people who don't deserve our freedom and don't deserve our sacrifice. And also fucking CGI blood and no squibs. Fuck that movie.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I would be willing to, if he had real like head blowing up squid shit, I would ignore the politics. But for the first scene in that movie, it's just dog shit CGI bullet hits. So everything else is going to suffer for that lack of viscerality.
I will agree with you that there could have been more squibs, and
there weren't any.
Yeah,
it's all Game Boy bullshit.
Well, we know he's good with squibs. We know.
And yet. No, I don't get. Tell me where this thing is. I do not understand the people who want to see that. Like, his movies are interrogating, the iconography that he was part of, and like overlaying it on America. And I think Richard Jewell is brilliant at doing that because he can see Richard Jewell for who he is. He can see him for being a real person. He cannot see Chris Kyle as a real American. So he's just redoing Unforgiven without recognizing that Unforgiven is a coda and that we are living in the aftermath of it.
Well, that movie even has like the literalization of it. But I think like with his portrayal of Chris Kyle, it's almost like the stripping away of that evocation of the outlaw. It's not the hat. It's not him carrying the shotgun. It's not him walking in to blast away Lil Bill. It's the mentality of the sanctioned killer who is now the person responsible for all these deaths, as much as the Eastwood character likes to say it is. And he's completely stripped it to literally the bones of what it is. It's an amoral killer who is now losing his mind because when he gets back to the United States, he breaks down psychologically.
But why does he break down psychologically? Because he couldn't save more people. He's like fucking Oscar Schindler with a sniper rifle. I need to be out there to protect my guys.
Yeah, but that's I think where Eastwood does not agree with him, because there's the scene where they're at the wedding or the reception or whatever, and you see all these guys being like, "We're going back, man. We're going in." The only person who gives any register to the horror about what could happen is the woman in that scene. She's the only one, and the camera focuses on her specifically. I wouldn't say Eastwood is very much in line with these characters, with these army soldiers. And whether he pulls it off or not, what he's doing is I think he's getting more into that individualistic mindset, the mindset of the person who thinks that they should have saved more people, that's justification for the heinous shit that they did.
I don't think it's portrayed as heinous.
I think it's portrayed pretty heinously when
No.
Yeah.
For one thing, you've got the Syrian sniper who's structuring his whole time over there and providing a reason for being there. Then the most brutal thing they show is an Iraqi Al Qaeda guy using a drill on somebody, which is hilarious since it was American trained death squads that actually used drills on people in Iraq.
Absolutely.
Like the horror is that this is a horrible place. That's the horror. And that anything we do there is going to be horrible because the place is horrible.
Yeah, I mean, but that could also just be the mindset of these characters that go over there. That's what they're trained to see when they go over there, just as much as they're trained.
But what he chooses to show, he's choosing to show their barbarity as like a central element of this. Like that's his choice. That's not, and if you want to go against the grain of the characters, you do not take Chris Kyle as face value.
Well, unless you're not trying to tell the story of Chris Kyle, unless you're trying to tell the story of the American soldier.
But that's not it either. It's a fraudulent. The whole thing is fraudulent because it takes as seriously the self-mythologizing. Like the reason that Richard Jewell is so good is because you've got a guy who also takes all that stuff seriously, but because he's a fat loser who's a security guard, it's comical, and the contrast is instant. But because the guys in an American Sniper carry all of the signifiers of alpha maledom that Eastwood responds to, he takes them seriously as that's what they are. Whereas Chris Kyle was I mean, forget the fact that he was a sociopath or whatever. He was a serial bullshit artist,
absolutely,
and self-promoter who just wanted to be famous.
Absolutely.
So that's the story. He couldn't see. He literally could not see what Kyle was because he had a gun in his hand.
I think we're agreeing more than we're disagreeing.
No, because it's not a good movie.
But he's not able to see anything outside of him by the end of that movie.
It's not a good movie. That's why I do not agree.
Well, then,
the CGI, honestly, number one reason it isn't good, more than any of this other shit we're talking about.
Then let's close
because that movie does have an action movie structure and ends with a big shootout with all the Al Qaeda guys after they build their bridge, after they build their wall.
Oh, but that's like not even towards the climax of the movie. That's not even towards the climax of the movie. That's like middle of the movie. The last part of the movie is him literally trying to kill the family dog. But hey, you know what? we're not going to argue about American Sniper. I think that this was more interesting than probably talking about Zemeckis. But hey, you know what? We can agree on Richard Jewell because I do think that his disrespect, the lack of respect he probably had for the security guard, makes a movie like that kind of pop. I mean, talk about a movie that really said something about the American culture of the last like 20 years. I mean, the Macarena scene, great.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody's bored. They're not.
No, not them.
And also his movie, if you want to talk about his movies about troops, I think that the fucking Paris movie with the real troops is better than American Sniper.
I would agree. I think
the scene where they show them at the Cold Stone Creamery, and then they go get the gelato in Italy, and it's just the same experience. It's just the same numb consumer ritual.
I'm with you on that. I love 1517. I think like if anything, that's him maybe trying to, I don't know, make amends, but try to further whatever he was trying to do with American Sniper.
Right. Like I think all those movies are of a piece. Like he's trying to interrogate like the way that these myths are now being performed in post 9/11 America. And I think it is a progression, and they get better. And I feel like Richard Jewell's where he really nailed it.
We would all agree on that. What do you think about Cry Macho?
Ooh, I mean, yikes. He's just, I get it's a thing, but it was hard not to find it amusing. And I don't know if that's what he was going for, but just, he's such a scarecrow. He's just such a comically old man.
Do you think we're
having three ways? It's like, is this feels like it has to be kind of a bit.
Well, and that's two movies where he's been put back out on a job to go do something and has threesomes in it. So
yeah.
Gonna say we were talking about before you came on, Matt, that wondering if that is whether he knew it or knows it or not, but whether that is the swan song, and he gave himself this weird last little fantasy of threesomes and running away to Mexico and just taking it easy, because it kind of feels like that to me, and that's why I'm peaceful.
Definitely, yeah, it feels like a coda. I mean, he has not started a new movie. He hasn't been seen in public in like over a year. I think he kind of he realized that it was going to be it.
He must. I mean, Warner Brothers they won't even.
Yeah, they dumped him.
New guy. They won't even let him pitch his new movie.
Oh, that fucking guy. That Zaitsev or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Philistine oaf.
Yes.
Oh, he's such a fucking idiot. I mean, those leaked the leaked telephone call where he's like, "We don't owe Eastwood anything."
Oh.
Which is technically not true. He actually brought so much credibility to Warner Brothers by winning at Oscars, so much so they gave him his own wing of the fucking place. But
no more
indeed. Now he gets to go out with an image that's like the Sam Peckinpah image of Mexico as a sort of heaven. So, which is interesting for a guy considered to be a right-wing sort of filmmaker to have such a loving depiction of Mexico. Well, let's end there. I mean, I'll just end on, if you could describe Eastwood politically.
That's what it turned into. Good.
If you could describe Eastwood politically, how would you define him?
I mean, he's a. I guess if it feels wrong to put like a label on it, because I doubt he really has thought too much about it.
Yeah.
He just a guy who grew up thinking things work one way and doesn't know why they can't keep working that way, which that's very common, and it's, especially if you've been successful your whole life, you're not really going to come into a lot of conflict with that idea. But he is enough of an artist that he is interrogating those feelings and is able to make really interesting, provocative art out of them. It doesn't seem like he has he has blind spots, obviously, but he doesn't have things that he kind of fetishistically can't confront. Like, it does seem like he's willing to be frank in a way that a lot of politically minded filmmakers can't be.
Yeah. And yeah, whether American Sniper is kind of that black-hearted thing for him. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to keep going on that, but I would say it's kind of occupied. Well, I can't help but think it's occupied a sort of dark totemic place in American filmography, like something like Straw Dogs, which still gets dissected and fought against to this day.
Yeah.
It's a shame that relic of the past of Hollywood is now literally not allowed at Warner Brothers anymore. They probably shut his Malpaso offices. He can't feed the squirrels anymore.
Now we just have the Twitter account.
Is that actually, do we know if that's actually him or someone?
I don't know. It's got a check mark, but it's a Twitter blue check mark, so I have no idea.
Is that the new kind of check mark that you can like buy?
Yeah, that you can buy. Starting next month, it's going to be the only one available.
Oh.
Is there anything you wanna plug at the end here? Anything coming up? Is Chapa going back on the road or anything like that?
I think we might this year, but we haven't said anything. So keep watching the skies.
Okay. What a treat to have you come on and argue American Sniper with me.
Yeah,
absolutely, it was fun.
That for a long time.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Matt Christman, it's been a pleasure, and just remember, people listening, tickets are on sale. Music Box Theater for Crackerjack Compass, the works of Robert Zemeckis, soon to be followed by The Driller Killer, aka the Clint Eastwood retrospective. So, yeah. Until then, we will see you all later. Goodbye.
Kiss me out of the bearded barley nightly, beside the green, green grass. Swing, swing, swing the spinning step. You wear those shoes and I will wear that dress. Oh, kiss me beneath the milky twilight. Lead me out on the moonlit floor. Lift your open head, strike up the band and make the fireflies dance. Silver moon sparkling. So kiss me.